Hello and welcome. My name is Roger Quayle, and you are listening to My Life in the Mosh of Ghosts. Hello there, and welcome back to My Life in the Mosh of Ghosts with me, your host, Roger Quayle, and thank you for joining me. We're starting a new season. It's season 4, which means a new year, 1981, and we're going to kick off the year with a gig which still seems to resonate with people all these years later. Throbbing Gristle, Cabaret Voltaire, Zev, Boyd Rice and DVA at the Lyceum Theatre on Sunday the 8th of February 1981. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Fetish Nite Out. Sunday lunchtime. George Quayle, 65-year-old, recently retired steel mill worker, is poring over an existential essay written by Genesis P. Orridge, 30-year-old musician, artist and disruptor-in-chief with Throbbing Gristle. Entitled A Lion in a Cage, this elegant discourse forms the sleeve notes for the debut album by ClockDVA.
"I'll say this for him,"
offers Dad.
"He's got away with words, this lad. Hey, is that his real name? Borridge?"
The album, my first long player, rumbles away on the home Sanyo Music Centre. Dad is a little puzzled.
"What's the matter with that singer, though? He sounds like he's in agony, Roger."
Nonetheless, I can tell he is pleased. Proud even, saying to my mom,
"Aye, Peg, that 60 quid for that drum set looks like a good investment now."
Mom, pouring Yorkshire pudding mix into an oven-blasted baking tin with a metallurgist's eye for measurement, just smiles. The album, entitled Thirst, is released on the same day as Trust by Elvis Costello. Imagine if people get confused, I wonder out loud to my disinterested bandmates, and they go into the record shop and ask for Thrust. Bass player Judd, forever skint and brutally unsentimental, has already taken his free promo copies of the album up to Record Collector in Broom Hill and has swapped them for something he actually needs: cold, hard cash. The album is released on Fetish Records, a one-man operation run by a genial 23-year-old home counties lad called Rod Pierce. Rod has released records by Throbbing Gristle and hip American bands The Bongos, Snatch and WKGB. An unflappable optimist, he runs Fetish out of a tiny 2-bedroom flat on Denby Street in Pimlico, rides around London on a motorbike, and is one of the coolest people I have ever met. Like buses, you wait 20 years to release your debut album, and then 2 come along at once. Hot on the heels of Thirst comes White Souls in Black Suits, a cassette-only album of largely improvised DVA performances, which Throbbing Gristle have released on their Industrial Records label. Rod releases TG and DVA. TG released DVA. There's more cross-fertilisation going on than David Bellamy's Compost Corner. And while Cabaret Voltaire haven't released on Fetish, their musical and ideological ties, and not to mention their pulling power, are strong enough to make them part of a bill called A Fetish Nite Out at the Lyceum on the Strand. The capacious, crumbling Lyceum Ballroom, its days of hosting Gielgud's Hamlet and Miss World long behind it, and The Lion King not yet a twinkle in Disney's eye, is either the first big peak in the capital for bands on the way to the very top, U2 played here last week, or the death zone for those who have plateaued, only to be starved of oxygen from here on. Spizzles are due up next. Happily, for all concerned, the big old room is busy tonight, with drinkers 3 deep at the brightly lit bar, which runs the length of a train platform along the back of the dance floor. Although billed as the headliners, Throbbing Gristle opt to play first, to avoid having to strike their arsenal of sensitive electronic hardware from the stage after soundcheck. TG's own flyers for the gig ignore the Fetish Records angle in favour of a self-styled psychic youth rally. And as a result, the first few rows gathered in front of the stage appears to be a conscripted squad of serious-minded young men with buzz-cut bullet heads clad in Millet's militia chic. TG start in almost total darkness. Suspenseful hammer horror gothic organ notes, Jen's harpooned whale song and juddering electronic blips reverberate out across the Lyceum, the mournful cries intoning a unique Sunday Vespers. He beats a drum and begins an incantation. Like the chanting of Gyutu monks, it builds in intensity. His words, particle accelerating, blur into an echoing loop. Attack and relent. Advance and retreat.
Again, 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 again!
The mood changes. The lonely beat of the last drummer standing on the battlefield endures. Geiger counter clicks and rude fuzz bass disturb the air. This is Throbbing Gristle at their most yielding and malleable. Beat by beat, the maul of sound grows once more. Genesis growing agitated as his moans turn to chants. Chants turn to shouts, and shouts turn to screams. Some kind of Berber music appears in the melee, conjuring up images of William Burroughs in Tangiers. This is searing, scouring, all-consuming machine music, and is my favourite live experience of TG thus far. It ends.
Now that you've all relaxed a bit,
Genesis is at the mic.
digested the hamburgers, what we need in this rather large place, and what we're going to get now.
A glam beat thump stomps in.
What we need in this rather large place, and what we're going to get now, what we need is a little bit of discipline.
Squelchy bass farts grumble along with the relentless jackhammer rhythm.
You can't sit there asleep all night. You've got to wake up sometime.
And it goes on and on. 10 minutes of discipline. Genesis lost in the racket. 15 minutes of discipline. Genesis speaking in tongues, head jerking back and forward. 20 minutes of discipline. The light show hits full Stalag Luft 3 searchlight candle power, blinding the audience. Genesis pommelling away like Oscar from the tin drum. After almost half an hour, Throbbing Gristle finally kill discipline. Having constricted the audience with the hypnotic first half of their set, the band retire. They've devoured the Lyceum in one muscular, jaws agape, snake-like swallow. Today is Zev's 30th birthday. Originally from California, he is another of Rod Pierce's NYC industrial art rock connections. Zev is 10 years older than me, but with his shaven head, scarred, sinewy body, and aura of Zen calm, he reminds me of one of the old monks from the Kung Fu TV series. More performance artist than musician, Zev performs with large beer kegs with clappers inside them. He throws these monstrous cylinders, some tethered to him with chains, around the stage. Having impressed at soundcheck, he starts off strongly in front of a somewhat baffled audience who are still reeling from TG's assault. Like Samson tossing the pillars of the temple asunder, the dexterous fury with which he manipulates these clattering barrels is impressive, particularly as he draws on a cigarette, clamped tight between his lips throughout his performance. Metal sheeting is vigorously shaken for a thunderous wobbling sound. Sadly, after some time, jet lag kicks in, and the Bible hero suddenly looks more like a knackered rag and bone man, angrily chucking scrap into the back of the lorry. We play next, and even the roadies are excited, as we have real instruments, guitar amps, a drum kit, and saxophone mics to set up and check. 1, 2, check 1, 2. Our prickly, coal bunker funk, actual songs with verses and choruses, and a beat you can dance to, is the closest thing to traditional rock music on the bill tonight, and we seem to go down well. I miss a cameo from Boyd Rice as I'm packing my drum kit up, but manage to get back out front for the start of Cabaret Voltaire's set. They kick off with a new song called Taxi Music, which has a caffeinated Latino dance beat. It takes a long time to get going, almost as if they have technical problems on stage. And while Mal gamely peeps away on a whistle, making him look like a cross between a Canvey Island soul boy and NYC's loushest traffic cop, Taxi Music mostly idles at the rank without really going anywhere. Recent single Seconds Too Late fares better, with its eerie Captain Scarlet battles the Mysterons on the Trans-Europe Express moodscape. On a night so far dominated by new, uncompromising music, the Cabs also show no sign of pandering to the crowd. So there's no Do the Mussolini, no Nag Nag Nag, although they do relent briefly with the eldritch shimmer of Kneel to the Boss from Voice of America, before departing with the brutalist thug beat iteration of another lengthy new song called 1,000 Ways. The audience file out, frazzled and deafened, their senses overloaded. I'm also fried, and probably shouldn't be let anywhere near a mic and tape recorder. Nevertheless, I find myself doing an interview with BBC Radio London, much to the amusement of my bandmates, who snigger as I tie myself up in pretentious knots.
I mean, I see our music getting bigger, you know, adding a horn section, a percussionist, a bit like Talking Heads. And on the next album, I might not use cymbals at all. You know, strip it right back, sort of evolving and yet devolving at the same time. Do you know what I mean?
Later, after I've been poured into the van and we stop for sobering mugs of tea and games of Galaxian at Toddington Services, does my head eventually pop back out of my arse. After a few hours sleep, I'm back at work. And I'll bet Zev isn't blankly searching for missing microfiche files. He's probably meditating, or maybe getting a new piercing. Compared to him and his total commitment to his cause, I know I'm a tenderfoot. Still living at home with mum and dad, sensible office job, looking to settle down like my older brother and sister before me. We are a level-headed family. No quail ever ran away to join the circus. At least, not yet. Remembering Rod Pierce, who was murdered in Mexico in 1997, aged 39. And Zev, who died in December 2017, aged 66. You have been listening to My Life in the Mosh of Ghosts with me, your host, Roger Quayle, and thank you for joining me. Thank you also to Simon Elliott Kemp for the intro and outro music, and to Rionagh for the artwork. Join me again next time for another episode from My Life in the Mosh of Ghosts. This is Roger Quayle saying thank you, and bye-bye.